Welcome to my first video that is not purely gameplay. As you can see by the title, I'm going to be debunking a lot of misconceptions and criticism and myths about the Overwatch PVE. This is not a video shilling for Blizzard or telling you to buy the PVE, it's just a little video to show that almost all of the content creators that released videos when the invasion missions first came out, they kind of misinterpreted the gameplay elements or didn't spend enough time with it to properly, effectively get through the content and beat it on legendary mode. So, let's begin with myth number one: always shoot the heads of troopers, null troopers first. This is probably something that transferred over from multiplayer, because in multiplayer you just shoot in the head whenever you have the chance, but in the PvE they have armor, and the components, one of which being the head, do break. So once you break the head, you can no longer shoot him in the head. So you want the damage that you deal to the head, the critical damage, to be as much damage as possible. So you don't want the armor that the null bots have to nullify or kind of lessen the damage that you deal to the head. So you want to deal damage to the right arm first, so that they stop shooting at you, and then you can either choose to shoot them in the head and kill them, and I believe on expert and legendary mode they will not be dead when you kill both the arm and the head. So you'll have to shoot another component or just in the body, and or you can just choose to ignore it, because once their right arm is down, they won't be able to shoot anymore. They'll just walk slowly towards you with a knife. And so you can focus on other targets that are more important, like slicers or stalkers or artillery or whatever, right? Now, myth number two: all enemies spawn in the same place all the time. That is not true, but I mean there are a lot of spawn points and a lot of like set points where things spawn, and when you play through it a bunch, you notice they spawn in the same exact places. But that's when it comes to null robots and small small fries usually. When it comes to a couple of places, some slight differences are um, on Liberation. Most of the differences are, and on Ironclad, I believe there's also a few differences in the end portion where you defend the turret. Um, and this can actually change gameplay, especially in the ferry terminal in Liberation. You really want the artillery to spawn. It can spawn in three places. You don't want it to spawn in the middle, because it spawns with jump jets if it spawns in the middle, and those are a pain in the ass. Where you want it to spawn is to the right, because if it spawns to the right, then you can boop it if you have a boop ability down towards the explosive barrels, or once you destroy the one of the arms, it'll start walking towards you, and it'll walk down the stairs, and you can destroy the explosive barrels and deal much damage to it. So you want it to spawn on the right side, preferably, and that's just one thing you can do where you can use the spawning mechanics to your advantage to be able to win. Myth number three is that the bigger health in higher difficulties is unintuitive and boring. And I guess that's an opinion that people can have. It is, my opinion, the complete opposite. That the low health makes it extremely boring, because you can't actually effectively engage with the strategy of the PvE. You can't, like, by the time you've broken a component, they're just dead already, the nullbots. So in easy and hard mode, there's no strategy. You just shoot and it's mindless and numb. While in expert and in legendary, you actually have to strategize, and you have to break the components um, in a strategic way. Like, you need to break the subjugators components. I'll talk more about that later. You'll need to you know, break the nullbot's arms. You need to break the artillery arm so that they don't fire at you. And it is possible to not strategize and still win on legendary. But it makes it so much easier, and it almost forces you, especially if you have AI teammates, to strategize and break components, and come up with other strategies like booping and all of that stuff. So that's just more of an opinion piece than it is a myth. But definitely a lot of the content, a lot of content that exists out there is people not even using the component breaking at all. So myth number 4, you need to hard focus the bigger units such as artillery and stalkers. This one is something probably everyone starts out thinking, and then over time they realize that they're wrong about it. Problem is, not many people spend enough time in the PVE to actually figure this out. That in some cases, leaving a stalker alive for a few extra seconds and not hard focusing it will be good for you because it'll hinder other units from spawning as fast, right? Because the faster you kill, the faster things will spawn sometimes. And for artillery as well, only breaking one arm and then just focusing on other more important things is so important in so many situations. Almost every time you're up against an artillery, you should only break one arm and focus on nullbots. That's at least the way I do it. Unless I have, you know, time and there's nothing except nullbots, and there's only a few nullbots, like at Ironclad, when the artillery spawns, I normally just burst down the entire artillery, because there's no point in really keeping it alive. But yeah, you don't need to always focus the bigger units until they're dead. Sometimes you only need to focus them for a little bit. Sometimes you need to intentionally keep them alive. It's different. There's strategy to it, and people don't realize that. Myth number 5, you have to boop subjugators and stalkers to cancel their abilities. Stalkers is, I guess, the lesser of that. Like, you do need to boop them, but there is one specific, very rare interaction that's extremely hard to pull off where you don't need to boop them, which is on Liberation. If you have a Zarya and a BAP at the same time, then and the Zarya gets pulled, then they can survive by bubbling themselves and getting the immortality field and getting a bunch of healing. They can survive for long enough that the Stalker lets them go. Because I think they only strike like 5 or 6 times before the Stalker lets go of the player they're pulling in. And this is good in that one specific interaction because they're completely stationary when they pull in, so you can deal a lot of damage to it. But specifically with Stalkers, you don't need to boop them right away either. Let them pull in for a little while until the player is pulled in all the way. When they're pulled in all the way, that's when you boop, because you want to be able to deal a lot of damage to the Stalker as fast as possible, or for as long as possible. And then for the Subjugators, you actually don't need to boop them at all. I very, very rarely boop a Subjugator, but in all the content that I've seen of the PvE, I only see people booping the Subjugators whenever they need to. It's because they don't realize that the components on the top of, like sitting in a little ring above the critical point of the Subjugator, there's 4 of them. If you break one of them, it interrupts the brain sucking thing. So you can throw like an AoE ability, like Sojourn's thing, and shoot like a fully charged railgun on one of them, and it'll break. And then from there, you can easily deal with it because it interrupts the brain sucking. And we'll go for myth number 6. The AI stands still when the Null Titan fires his missiles. This is completely false. And it's only said in one video by one content creator, I'm pretty sure. But it's still like a little misconception, and I'm gonna use it to explain the AI a little more. The AI follow the player, or most AI, especially when there's no enemies, they always follow the player. So if you're standing still, hiding underneath something, then the AI are gonna stay still, and they're gonna get hit by the Null Titan missiles. So there are two ways the AI behave when there are enemies. So when the missiles come down for the second time, when you're in the actual arena over by the statue, I'm pretty sure, that is when you can, you're gonna have to utilize the different types of AI. So Bastion is scouting AI. His AI goes out of his way to literally not be where you are. So he's probably gonna die a lot if you're on legendary, and you somehow have a Bastion AI. So try to have a player play Bastion, and both Brig and Rhine are follow AI, so they follow the player, and Torb is also follow AI. So you can just go inside a building, and the missiles will not hit the AI because they'll be following the player into the building. There are a bunch of other characters that are also Scout AI and Follow AI, and I'm just gonna mention the way to test it. If you go into Liberation, you go past the plaza where you fight the first two stalkers, and you go to the glass. You can look back down towards the plaza, and if any AI are like walking over the plaza and not going there into the next room, then that means they are scouting AI. So I can just mention, I know Sojourn is scouting AI, I know Lucio is scouting AI, I know Zarya, I think, and Bap are also scouting AI. But essentially it's the scouting AI that are the most annoying because they go off and they die somewhere, and they have to crawl all the way over to you, and then you can res them. But at least that's a little bit of help, extra help, if you're having trouble with scouting AI and controlling where the AI are, that they come to you. And positioning matters. Anyways, myth number 7. PVE is fully cancelled, and they will never release any more missions. So, this might be a little hopeless for a channel called Hope, or Hopium Gaming, but it is essentially true. But I'm sure they have the missions, right? They're not going to release the missions, but they have the missions. And I think they're going to release the missions that they have, like the Archives missions, and the Underground mission, and the next mission, the one with Genji, Sombra, Widow, Zenyatta. They're going to release that when the game is dying, when they want money, right? Because originally the plan was to release one mission every season, but then they scaled it back to every 18 months. And like they're gonna do a mission drop every 18 months. And then they went radio silent. So we can assume that the public relations disaster and like not making enough money and them marketing the hell out of the invasion missions, but still not making that money back and not breaking even is probably what caused them to not release anything more, and they don't want to do another marketing campaign like that. So what they're going to do is they're going to hold on to the missions. They're going to probably not do a marketing campaign, and they're either going to release it when there's so much demand in social media and on stuff like that that they want to release it and they think they're going to make money for it, or they're going to hold on to it for a really, really long time and only release it when the game is dying, fully dying, to be able to lure those players back into the multiplayer, not to the PVE, to the multiplayer, because them releasing PVE will probably get a lot of articles going, like, oh my god, they released a PVE again, and then that is going to bring people back, like Overwatch, back into people's brains, and people are going to keep playing the PvP. So that's my theory, but they never officially fully cancelled the PvE story missions. There is still a chance that they have those missions ready to go and to release. At least the archives and stuff. Anyways, that was a few myths about the PvE that I have now debunked. I hope you enjoyed and learned something today. And if you enjoyed enough, you might even click that subscribe button and become my first ever subscriber. So yeah, peace out. It's been great.